Hello, dear friends. This morning I needed to do something a little different, more of a face-to-face. I want you to know that I am missing your faces. I cannot wait to see you and hug you all again. I wonder what the sting of injustice feels like to you. For me, it's like a rush of heat in my gut, mixed with frustration, some deep shame, and deep resentment, and anger, not only at the system, but of my own participation in it. And maybe even some foolishness, because I'm just seeing what I should have already known. The whole mix of feelings presents for me a lot like rage. The first time I felt that sting was my senior year in high school. My family had just moved to a nice neighborhood with good schools, maybe for the first time in my life. What people meant, of course, when they said nice and good was primarily rich and very few black folks. So we moved to this nice neighborhood in Birmingham, Alabama, and my school was mostly white, like really only mostly white, 1,200 students, but only 30 black students. Contrast that with the local McDonald's, which had only black workers. Now, most of the schools I had attended before, the bad schools, had more black students than white. And in my previous bad neighborhoods, black and white folks had worked together at McDonald's. And then one day, as I drove home from school in the afternoon, there were black women lining the streets in my neighborhood. "Mom, Mom," I yelled when I got home, "why are there black women lining the street?" She answered, "They're the neighbors' maids, waiting for the bus." Come to find out, the good neighborhood I lived in didn't have public transportation. The buses from the city did not come to the good neighborhoods, but instead a private bus company dropped off and picked up domestic workers each day. This was the first time I really noticed systemic injustice. And once you see it, it's really hard to look away. This week of news really changed my focus for this Sunday. You see, Friday evening I went to a Zoom party celebrating the coming out of our friend June, who preached with us last year. She is, at 10:30 this morning, coming out to her church as trans. Immediately after the Zoom party, I saw in the news that a trans woman named Dominique Remy Fells was brutally murdered in Philadelphia. And then I saw the news about the current administration removing transgender protections in ACA, or Obamacare as it's usually called. But it didn't stop there. I also found out that 5 people in the Forsyth County Jail have contracted COVID-19. That means that the pandemic has hit our jail. In New York City, the rate of infection from COVID-19 ran about 2.5% in the total population. But in the jails, it ran from 8 to 12%. In the United States, rate of infection in the jails is 21 times the rate of infection in the unincarcerated communities. All week, I've been following the COVID-19 debacle that is North Carolina right now and praying that our leaders act to get this spike under control. We know that testing is key to getting COVID-19 in our community under control. You may also know that as of a few weeks ago, only 19% of the COVID-19 cases in Forsyth County were white folks. Black and brown communities continue to be affected much more than white communities, largely owing to access to health care and working in non-protected essential jobs. You may also know that CVS is opening its Minute clinics in its stores as testing sites. What you may not know is that the Martin Luther King Boulevard CVS store will not be opening a testing site. Their corporate offices have refused to open that store. And even though they say it's free to get tested, what they mean is the test is free, but not the administration of the test or reading the results. Add that to the fact that to get tested at CVS, you have to have a state-issued ID. Well, that right there knocks out many of our undocumented Latinx folks and also some members of the Black community. There's so much injustice here. But there's more. I heard about the death of another Black man at the hands of police, this time in Atlanta. His name was Rayshard Brooks. And so I am feeling that same sting today. I feel the deep rage inside of me. I've had that ragey feeling about Black lives and trans lives and brown lives and Native American lives and women's lives for most of my life. Only it's worse right now. And the truth be told, I am fueled by that rage. I could head out into the streets right now and march 1,000,000 steps, even with a mask on. I could dress all up in black, grab a club, and bang on some heads to be, if I'm totally honest with you. But there's another feeling that follows that rage. When the rage simmers down and I see that real and lasting change is so far away, I feel powerless. And man, I much prefer the rage. I don't doubt that the writers of Isaiah in today's passage felt this rage and hopelessness. The people were participating in the structural marginalization of their brothers and sisters. They were putting on their Sunday best, wearing their religious symbols around their necks, patting themselves on their backs for their piety, and sucking the life out of the marginalized. The text says, "Yet day after day they seek me and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that practiced righteousness and did not forsake the ordinance of their God." In Hebrew, what's translated as righteousness is the word tzaddik, and it's justicia in Spanish, justice. Isaiah is saying, you act like pious people, but you're missing the most important part, to practice justice. Isaiah continues, "It is not the fast that I choose. Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house when you see them naked, to cover them and not to hide yourself from your own kin?" Whether you are motivated by your own rage or your own sense of taking power back, or by following God's justice, or even motivated by your own boredom during this COVID-19 time, I implore you, do something this week to practice tzaddik. I've come up with a list to help you. First, write a letter or 2 or 3 to a person in our county jail. As I mentioned, there have been 5 cases of COVID-19 in staff, but no one knows about the inmates. I can send you a template, an address, and even an envelope and a stamp if you're willing. There are more than 600 inmates in the jail, and the Forsyth County Prisoner Outreach Initiative wants to make sure that they're all okay. I can get you all the information. Just email me. In addition, if you're willing to write Sheriff Kimbrough an email requesting that prisoners have access to masks, testing, and extra protection for extra vulnerable folks, let me know and I'll send you his email address. Second, there's a group of folks in Winston who have created a mutual aid group serving about 15 Latinx families here. Some of you know that they had a tamale cook-off yesterday, and some of us in church are actually eating the tamales still today. Each of the families is food insecure. Each has undocumented members. The mutual aid group is helping them find work and connecting them to resources. What if we had a little fundraiser? A $25 gift card would make a huge difference to each of these families. If we raised $375, each family could get a $25 gift card for Walmart. If we raised $1,500, each family could get $100. What a difference that would make. And also, your pastor's bad at math. Third, the trans community is feeling worried and fearful about the future. Reach out this week to one of your trans friends. Ask how they are, and if you're able, let them know how you will help. One of our church's trans friends reached out to me last night and said, "I am not okay." I called her and prayed with her and promised her that if she suddenly cannot get the medications that she needs through her insurance, that I would help. Can you reach out to your trans friends? An email, text, or letter of support? If you need addresses or phone numbers from our folks, let me know. Number 4, have you filled out your census? While it may not seem like a lot, funding for our community comes from you filling out your census. Do it now. Also, I know that most of you are registered to vote, but begin thinking about how you will vote. We've seen the coronavirus wreak havoc on voting in several states, most recently in Georgia. Make sure your vote is counted. Finally, I know many of you are uncomfortable protesting in the streets because of the COVID virus. I share your fears. In this moment, there are safer ways to help. For instance, this evening, there's an in-car protest at 5 p.m. and the lineup location is Research Parkway and 3rd Street. You can decorate your cars with signs against racism. They drive through the city showing people that we really do want to end racism. Last week, more than 150 cars protested. Y'all, if there's one lesson from this coronavirus, it is this. We are connected to one another. And we're so connected that if one of us is hurting, all of us will be hurting. As a community, I'm asking that we each work on something, no matter how small, so we can see for ourselves how this can actually help change the world. And so that we can see for ourselves that we are not powerless. We can see that collectively, we are actually powerful. Do you remember the story of the starfish? A young boy was out on the beach after a terrible storm, picking up starfish and tossing them into the waves. An old man came by and said, "Boy, don't you see that there are way too many starfish, that you can't even make a difference here?" The boy bent down, picked up another starfish, and tossed it into the waves. "Made a difference to that one," he said. Be in touch with me this week as to how you're going to do justice this week. Tell me how you're going to make a difference to that one. Wake Forest Baptist Church, I love you and I love being your pastor, and I hope to see you soon.